This is River Currents. Float downstream with us as we follow current issues in the Susquehanna River Basin.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stacy Hanrahan, the communication specialist here at the SRBC. With me today is Erin Lynham. She's our policy specialist. Thanks for joining me today, Erin.
Thanks for having me, Stacy.
We're here to talk about our groundwater level monitoring grants, but first I thought you could give listeners a little background on what you do here, Erin.
Sure thing. I have worked here at the Commission for about 13 years, the past 3 of which I've worked in the legal and policy program as our policy specialist. Prior to that, I spent 10 years in our regulatory program. And then before joining SRBC, I worked in a variety of private sector environmental consulting and government work outside of the Commonwealth.
So the groundwater level monitoring grants, you've worked really hard on these the last 2 years. This is actually the second round of grants that we're giving out. Before we get into the details of the grant and how people can apply, first let's give the listeners a quick background on why we felt here at SRBC that these grants were needed.
Yeah, sure. Backstory is always important. So the agency had been wanting to launch a grant program in several different formats or forms, debating which program should launch first. It decided the inaugural program would be a targeted one for groundwater level monitoring. It's something that all docket holders are required to do. It is something that is important for knowing how your aquifer is functioning, both for the project sponsor and for the regulatory agency. And it's the right thing to do. When you have money, you help folks out. So that was part one. Part two is that in the regulatory program, they are expecting upwards of 500 to 600 projects to come in for what's called docket renewals over the next 3 to 4 years. That's an extraordinary amount of projects in a very short period of time. Collecting water level from groundwater sources will help both the project sponsor and the regulatory staff in reviewing these projects when they come back in for renewal. It can be a lot less costly of an effort for folks than to do something like an aquifer test, which would give very detailed, comprehensive scientific information about water availability, about the aquifer, and it can also be very expensive. So the Commission is hoping that these grants that are awarded will help folks implement very simple measures to collect simple data in lieu of a much more expensive and timely process.
And which projects are available for the grant? All the projects that we regulate, or
right?
certain ones?
So the Commission regulates a few different things in terms of water withdrawals. We regulate surface water withdrawals, groundwater withdrawals, consumptive use of water into and out of basin diversions. In short, this program, like I said, is very targeted to those projects that have groundwater withdrawals that are approved by the Commission as dockets, that have a registered grandfathering certificate. That's for projects that were built prior to the Commission existing, prior to our regulations going into effect. So all they have is a very simple form that registers them with the amount of water they use that says we are in existence and the Commission knows that they exist. And then the third category are those projects that have entered into or are going through the process of an order with the Commission to come in and to get an approval. They might not have known about the Commission, or there might be an issue with their project. So they're required to do a few things to get their approval up to date. So the grant is open to those 3 types of very specific groundwater withdrawal projects.
Awesome. How much money are we talking about here?
So the commissioners were very generous in setting aside a good chunk of money in round 1 last year in 2021. I think the net total pot was about $120,000 total for the first round of the grant to see how it goes. The first round was limited to $1,500 per groundwater source and a facility-wide cap of $7,500. So no matter how many wells you had, once you hit $7,500, That was the cap on your grant application. In round 2 this year, we expanded the amount of money available for the individual groundwater well from $1,500 to $2,500. We looked at what the costs were coming in at for folks that were sending us their invoices, and we decided that bumping up $1,000 was reasonable and affordable. So yeah, this year there's more money available per source. The facility cap is still $7,500. That way we can have the grant available and open to as many folks as want to apply, we hope.
So speaking of the money, project sponsor applies, is granted an award. Are they going to get the money up front? Are we talking about a reimbursement? How does it work after the fact?
Yes, that's a good question because all grants are different. This one is actually a reimbursement system, and that's just a due diligence aspect that our commissioners were more comfortable with. So how the grant is written is that the applicant, should they be awarded a grant, has I think about 15 months to purchase and install their groundwater level monitoring equipment. And once they do that, they send us their invoice, they send us a paid receipt, a copy of their paid receipts, and our Director of Finance and Administration cuts a check and they get reimbursed for the amount of money they were awarded and as executed in their grant agreement.
So we did the first round last year. Have you heard from any of the awardees from last year, how it's going? Let's be real, we're sitting here heading into summer 2022. There's all these supply chain issues right now, things like that. But have you heard from folks who, received the money or they're starting to put in some of the equipment?
I have been in contact with our round 1 applicants and awardees for the last year. Through email, through phone call. The response has been very positive. Folks have been seemingly very excited to find any little pockets of money that they can to assist with their infrastructure needs, with their regulatory needs. I have had no complaints. I've had no pushback. Mostly people are just happy to have some assistance out there. So in terms of, supply chain, that's been a realistic issue for probably, I'd say, about a third of our grant awardees. We're coming up on the deadline for purchase and installation of equipment for the round 1, the 2021 awardees. June 15th is their deadline. And some of them are still waiting on equipment. Some of them are still waiting on materials. Some of them have invoices outstanding because the materials have been ordered but haven't been delivered. So we are trying to work with those folks too, because things that are out of their control we want to be respectful of, and we want to give the money to those who have been awarded it. So we're working with them.
Yeah, so we're not just going to pull the money back.
We're really trying not to.
Right. So again, here we are in the second round. How does somebody apply?
So how somebody applies, there's a couple parts to this. Number one is that the commission sent out what we call a mass email, I believe in early April of 2022, to every project sponsor that we have on the books, to every person with a grandfathering certificate. We send it out to every consultant that we have in our database that can assist projects with this kind of work. Thousands and thousands of people received the announcement email with direct links to the website, to documents that help folks fill out the application should they want to. And then we sent a second round reminder email in May, the end of May this year, again reminding folks this grant is open. Please apply if you're eligible. Here are the criteria, and the deadline to apply reminder of June 30th, 2022. So we sent out 2 mass emails. If folks haven't received either of those and want to apply, the easiest thing to do is to go to the SRBC website. In the little search tool, type in groundwater grant, 2 words, and it will bring you to the website. It's easier than me just trying to spell out the website for you here. And it'll bring you to the website. It's a very easy platform to use. We've had a lot of positive feedback on how easy the application is, and yeah, we hope to see some more applications roll in.
What's the deadline?
The deadline is June 30th, 2022, so coming up here in just a few weeks.
And if anybody has any issues, should they reach out to you?
So there's a general grants email, grants@srbc.gov or .net. You can email that email address, and it reaches me directly. And otherwise, you can always call my phone at the commission. Always available to help. But yeah, email, phone call, we're here.
And as you said, you've been working hard on this now. Again, we're in the second round. Anything from the first round that stands out that maybe you can give the applicants any kind of inside tips or something that stuck out as maybe an issue that they can avoid?
Yeah, there's a few things. One of the primary things is that we heard in the first round from a lot of private sector project sponsors, so not public water suppliers, private sector, industry, commercial ventures, saying that they didn't feel that they should bother applying because private sector entities almost never get grants. So I just want to reiterate that the grant is open to public and non-public entities regulated by the commission. If you're private sector and you want to try to get some money to help with groundwater level monitoring, you have just as equal a shot as a public regulated entity. So please note that. We had some website issues in round one because it was the inauguration of our grants program. We totally revamped that for round two. The website platform is in-house built now. Very, very simple to use. And tips for filling out the application, don't overthink it. It is very short. It is like 2.5 pages tops. I've tested it out several times. It takes 5 to 6 minutes maximum to fill out. It's not overwhelming like a lot of grant applications can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
5 to 6 minutes. That's incredible.
That's very
compared
short.
to other grant processes.
We really tried to streamline it because this is a very niche program and targeted to a specific sector of folks that we regulate. So we didn't want it to be burdensome for folks. We want to give this money out.
Anything else that I didn't cover that you think that we should let everybody know about?
No, I would just say apply. And if you haven't, it's very likely we're going to continue this program each year subsequent. Whether or not it stays a niche program or merges into something bigger remains to be seen. But the commission is committed to its grants program, and this is an important one.
Erin, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Again, for more information on our grant program or any of our other endeavors here at the SRBC, go to www.srbc.gov.
And now you're current on issues of the Susquehanna. Thanks for listening to River Currents. See you downstream.